DAO Watch episode 16. Well, I came into this episode trying to get it nice and short and concise. I wanted to be in and out within half an hour, and it took me an hour. It took me twice as long. There is some real controversy in this episode. I've really tried to break it down as best as I can. It's not been easy. I'll tell you that for free. Pivx, possibly the most difficult proposal I've ever had to try and get my head around and see how we can improve scenarios like that. It definitely needs further action, and I'm hoping that I have the time, the energy, and the wherewithal to put in a proposal that can solve the current Pivx dilemma. You need to watch to find out more about that. Evmos is missing this month, and I will tell you why in this episode. It's out of my hands. Finally, our guest this month is MakerDAO, 100% the most complicated DAO in the entire universe ever. And we look at probably their most simple proposal, and it's possibly over 100 pages long. Keep it locked. DAO Watch 16. I'm Cryptosi. You're the Watchers. DAO Watch episode 16. You've already seen the intro, so let's just get straight into it. The special guest DAO for this particular episode is going to be MakerDAO. Now, is MakerDAO the best DAO in the world, the most advanced, or is it just the most complex? It certainly is one of the most complex. You probably need a doctorate just to understand what's going on within MakerDAO. It's they've got some very interesting ways of mitigating that, but we will get onto that later. For now, let's get started with the usual suspects, and that is Dash. Now, this proposal that we are looking at now is the proposal for Dash Ninja 2023. So, in a nutshell, it's to fund Dash Ninja, the Dash Ninja site, for another year. It's 84 Dash per year, and they want it to be funded for another year. The link to the proposal is in the description. But in a nutshell, the Dash Ninja site, if I open it in a new tab, is basically a almost like an explorer, I would say. Almost like an explorer for Masternode owners, or for people who are interested in what the Masternodes are doing. So basically, it gives you a lot of statistics. You can actually see who's voting on what. You can see all of the proposals. If we look at the proposals here, voting consensus. No, let's go up here to governance. So you can see all the proposals that have been put in. You can see if it's valid, if it's been funded. Last seen is just like a sanity check. I guess. See if it's still there. The time of when it starts and when it ends, and the amount that they're going for. And here is actually the Dash Ninja proposal itself. So this is the proposal that the guys put in onto the Dash blockchain. It's for one payment of 83.8 Dash, which works out to be 3,500 USD. So this one, for me, is all pretty straightforward. Spoiler alert, I voted yes on this. The budget, I like this proposal because he's gone to, it's concise in that it's not too long. However, he has I love that he's got his keybase here so that you know it's him. I think this is a throwback. I think all proposers should have this here. I think people should use it, but they don't really. Not that accounts get hacked that much, but they do get hacked. So it's always good to use your keybase, your PGP, whatever you want to use, but something along those lines so that people know that it's actually you that's put forward a proposal. So the proposal is just to fund this site for another year. The site itself is pretty useful. It's almost redundant because a lot of the things that are on the site can be pieced together using other services. There are a few things that are on there that aren't on other services, but for the most part, you can garner the information elsewhere, just not put together in such a nice format. The proposal covers the server's hosting costs for 1 year. I like that this is a third party, so that it's not core. I love it when proposals come in and they are not from the core team. I love that. The guy has to do a few hours of maintenance per month. He shows about the server. He talks about the prices, how they increased, and the entire project is all open source. So you can go on GitHub and you can fork it if you want to. You can look and see what's there. You can even contribute if you so like. The budget, the reason why he's asking for the money, he's broken it down. The server fees are as such. He's got a small contingency of around 11%. Proposal fee, he's requesting that back, which is 1 dash. And that's the total. There should be some... Oh, here we go. One person's half-day maintenance per month, so that's $160. So he's charging his own maintenance at around $320 a day. That's maybe a bit much, maybe, but the thing is with these types of things is that you're not going to get bargain basement prices, because bargain basement people usually don't have the impetus to go and do these things on their own. So that's what his price is worth. We had this discussion before when we looked at another proposal. It's all well and good for you to say, okay, well, you know what, I could have got some guy in India or Ukraine to do it for $10 a month. It's all well and good saying that, but you haven't, have you? So this is what the guy is charging, and he's the one that's built it. He's the one that's doing it. So I like it, and I respect his hourly rate, because that is what you would pay for him, and he is the one doing it. Server details, he says exactly what server he uses. 64 gigabytes of RAM and at least the SSD hosted on OVH, Rise 1 model, around $100 a month, taxes included. Works very well for Dash Ninja. Performance has been stellar. And that's what you want. You want something that gives you stellar performance. What happens if the proposal is rejected? He won't be able to afford to pay for the standalone Dash Ninja server anymore. Two options: either he moves it back to his personal server, which you lose a little bit of the stability, I guess, and you would probably lose quite a lot of the performance. Will go down, but we know it works well there as it was there 3 years ago. Or you'll help somebody set it up on their own server. So if someone else has got a server spare, or they've got a server with spare capacity, he'll help someone else set it up if this proposal doesn't go through. Currently, this proposal is going through. It's romping home, and I can understand why. It makes sense on so many different levels. Let's see what the discussion says. He's got to update his nodes. That's due to Dash network upgrade, and the upgrade not going well. Someone said a yes from me. There was a little bit of pushback. All right, here we go. Grandmaster Dash. I love Grandmaster Dash. He's always the guy you go to when you want an alternative view. I'm going to give this an upvote, even though I actually don't agree with it. I do like when people come in with alternative points of view, and that's what this voting thing here should be for. Don't use it to say whether or not you like a person's opinion. Use it to say whether or not you appreciate that they've opened their mouth. So if someone says something you don't agree with, you should still give it a like. So don't use this to say whether you like something or not, because that's not actually what it's for. It's whether you appreciate whether or not they've brought this to the table. I like this site, use it sometimes, but a definite no from me. I have no idea why in all these years you've not been able to make it self-sustainable. See, I don't like this. However, if people, such Masternode owners, find it so valuable, make them pay for it out of their own pocket. Dash is allegedly digital cash. Can't imagine how hard it could be. Now, this point I understand. If it's mainly aimed at Masternode owners, then perhaps the Masternode owners should be the ones to pay for it. On the other side, on the flip side, I feel like it's useful enough to people who aren't even Masternode owners, should they decide to look at it, that I would class it as a public good. And even if it only benefited the Masternode owners, I'd still class it as a public good. Because you want to have facilities there for the Masternode owner, because you want to encourage people to have Masternodes. You don't want to say, okay, you can buy a Masternode and that thing, but if you want any tooling to work with your Masternode, you have to then pay for that separately. That's not really what you want. Other networks which you'd be competing with will probably finance this stuff as a public good. So I think it benefits the network if it makes Masternode owning more desirable, which it definitely does. So I upvoted it because I agree. I appreciate that Grandmaster Dash chimed in, and I appreciate that he's brought this valuable point to the table. But I think it's quite easily quelled. To make it self-sustainable, I don't think it does need to be self-sustainable. I think that's the purpose of the treasury. That is Dash is making Dash itself self-sustainable. So it's not down to the sub sections of Dash to also become self-sustainable. Not in every single case, and not in this case. I understand your point on self-sustainability, but from the start, I did not want Dash Ninja to be a commercial site. Perfect. It was designed to help Masternode owners check everything was fine, and also anybody who wanted to check the health of the Dash network, fine. So it's a public good. This site can be self-sustainable when I host it on my small personal server, but it was not. But no, that's not self-sustainable. That's not what self-sustainable means, because then you're paying for it. It's not paying for itself. But it was not as good an experience for everybody as it is now on that beast. Okay, da-di-da-di-da. You don't have to make a profit. Okay, so Grandmaster Dash is kind of just trying to ram the point home. So we can agree to disagree there. Let's see how Ryan's idea of letting Masternode owners feel the pinch for funding proposal. Masternode should either feel the pinch for funding or pay for the actual use directly. Proposal really, it just kind of changes the subject. But yeah, and this is one of the issues you have when you've got this two-tier governance system that you have in Dash, is that it kind of sometimes it does seem like there are the haves and the have-nots, or not even that. It seems like that it actually is a fact that there are the haves and the have-nots, and you will get people like Grandmaster Dash, and even myself, I've been guilty of it in the past, of being a person who says, well, they are the haves, so they should pay. I don't think that's always the case. And in this scenario, I don't think it's the case. So from me, it's definitely going to be a yes. The pros are obviously the site. Dash Ninja has been up for around 4 years. So we know that this money is not going to get wasted. The guy has hosted it by himself. He has also said that he's prepared to host it himself if these guys don't want to have the treasury pay for it. It's one of the cons is, not only are the Masternode owners not paying for it, as Grandmaster Dash said, perhaps they should, but they're the ones that decide whether or not everyone collectively should be paying for it. This is a clear conflict of interest, because Masternode owners, whether they like it or not, they're going to be slightly biased, and they are very likely to say, okay, yeah, you pay for it for me. Everybody always wants to spend everybody else's money, don't they? I would love to be able to spend other people's money. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree? If you disagree, you can put your comments in the comment section below, or you can keep them to yourself. I really don't care. For me, it's a yes. I do think that there is a slight conflict of interest, and I do appreciate that Grandmaster Dash has brought that up. That not only are the Masternode owners not the ones that are paying for it, but they are the ones that decide whether or not everybody should pay for it or not. The Dash treasury obviously comes from newly created coins on the Dash network, so it's all inflationary actions that are now paying for this site, which is mostly beneficial to Masternode owners. Let's move on. Let's see how we're doing for time. That was good. We need to pick it up a little bit. Oh dear. Well, we're going to struggle to pick it up a little bit with this. This is, oh gosh, I was going to avoid this one because it's one of those ones which, firstly, I'm not qualified to really give an opinion on. And secondly, it's very complex. So let's look at Dash. Now, a few months ago, I think now, I covered a proposal for a developer called Liquid. Now, Liquid put in a proposal to get paid to do development, and my takeaways were, yeah, I know him. I've known him before. He was a part of the Pivx core team. He's worked on a lot of Pivx forks, and to the best of my knowledge, his work has always been pretty good. So having him as a part of the Pivx team would be beneficial. However, it would be remiss of me not to note his new proposal. Not only because he's finally aligned it correctly, which is great. He's been very concise with what he's doing. However, there have been some, and this is really what I want to highlight, as opposed to usually what we do where we look at proposals and say what I think with my limited knowledge. I want to highlight that there has been some major pushback. Now, this is from a person called Captain Redbeard, who's allegedly a new Pivian. Now, this just goes to show this person doesn't want to say who they are, but chances are they are one of the developers in either Pivx Labs or a Pivx fork. But they're clearly quite familiar with the code base. Now, what this person said, they'd like to share their observations regarding the proposal as someone who has experience in development. Now, this is key. This is key. Even though we don't know who they are, I think this is key. And I think this is one of the main problems that we have with DAOs at the minute. But let's see how we can mitigate. Let's see how we can iron this out. I feel compelled to speak up and express my concerns. Simply put, I believe this proposal is fraudulent, and I can no longer remain silent. Now, I would suggest English is not this person's first language, simply because fraudulent is quite a strong word, and I've read this already, and judging by the rest of it, I don't think fraudulent is really the word he wanted to use, because it has a lot of undertones. During the first cycle, Liquid received 30,000 PIV for his work, which included 5 pull requests. However, upon examining the work done, I noticed that 3 of the PRs were trivial and lacked substance. Now, I wouldn't have been able to know this. Maybe I would, maybe I wouldn't. A good chance I wouldn't be able to know this. And most other people who are checking these proposals wouldn't be able to know this. Most people who own Pivx or are expected to vote wouldn't be able to go into the GitHub and verify Liquid's work. So luckily, this person has done that. While 2 others appeared to be copied from existing pull requests, for example, Solve BLS Memleak pull request had only 7 lines of code copied from Dash. Similarly, the rewind block index to last checkpoint pull request seemed almost identical to one previously made by Furzy. The other 2 PRs were rate limiting, rumored address processing, and clear evo db cache when oversized, both of which were backports. Upon reviewing the second cycle, I saw that the pattern continued, with most of the PRs being backports or copies of existing work, with the notable exception of one 10-line code fix. Now, the defense of Liquid, and obviously I can't say that I'm impartial, because I'm not really impartial, if I'm honest. I guess the argument would be, or maybe his defense, I can't speak on his behalf, but I consider maybe his defense would be that you need a certain level of knowledge, and it takes a certain amount of time to ensure that any port of any code or any fork of any code or any copy of any code will actually fit into the code base that you're copying it into. So whilst the action may be simply copy and paste, I guess, I'm assuming, I'm literally speculating here, and I'm not qualified to do so. I'm speculating that Liquid would argue that it may seem like a trivial thing to copy and paste, but it's not, because I have to also make sure that it works. I have to also make sure it doesn't break things that we've changed elsewhere. I have to do this testing, etc., etc. One thing that I did learn from a previous Pivx core dev was that it's one thing to get the code there, even when someone adds the code and says, okay, let's do the code, but it often takes just as long to make sure that the code isn't breaking anything, isn't causing any vulnerabilities as it is to actually write the code itself. So in his defense, although these things may seem small, perhaps the work that goes behind them is a lot bigger. However, I feel like Captain Redbeard would have considered this and has considered this, because if I thought of it straight away, he would have definitely, and he still thinks it's garbage. But I could not find any related commits. Furthermore, he did not work on deterministic masternodes as he claimed he would. Now, this suggests that Captain Redbeard is inside. For the second cycle, the PRs were introduce interfaces, sign-in power-based, another Bitcoin backport, another Bitcoin backport, another Bitcoin backport, another Bitcoin backport, which only consisted of 10 lines. Fix. Okay. I find it difficult to justify $24,000 payout he received. In my opinion, a more reasonable amount would be around $1,000. Woo-wee. Most of his contribution consisted of copying and pasting existing pull requests or making minor changes like adding a button or modifying a few lines of code. From what I see, he did not bring any new ideas or significant contributions to the project. In addition to these concerns, I discovered while being paid as a full-time core developer, Liquid also made 23 commits to Doge Cash and released a new version. He purposely hid these commits from his GitHub profile, making them difficult to find. Perhaps it's the reason why his work on Pivx has been so shallow. In conclusion, I have serious concerns about this person's validity. I urge others, especially developers, to consider the quality of work being produced before making any decisions. Now, this is masterful. I haven't liked it, but I guess I'll like it now. Or am I not logged in? Yeah, okay. I hadn't liked it before, but I liked it, but I didn't physically click like. Now, that then prompted Alexandra Rezi, who's another developer, and I did say before that did seem to be a lot of crossover where we wasn't quite sure of what individual people were handling, but that could be the nature of development when you have teams like this. There could be a fluid nature. Now the developers are actually saying no, there's not that fluid nature. He didn't work on deterministic masternodes, and he didn't work on shield improvements. The questions are getting very precise. What cryptographic research are you doing? At the moment of writing, you haven't written a single line of code. You told me that you don't know cryptography. Second question, you include the full roadmap, but can you be clear which points you are going to work on? I have nothing against you, of course, but at the same time, I absolutely despise people that try to get funding with the work of others. A slight contradiction there, but fair. Again, it's fair. And it's well delivered, so I'm going to like that as well. Right, so, and Liquid has come back. It's for me to research and improve to be able to do something more in that regard. I'm not saying I am, so I can contribute to that. It's not saying I am, so I can contribute, especially in the case of reviewing and the processes we go through. It's nothing to say that is what I'm doing. My initial proposal has information in it that this stuff is updating to. Does not specifically mean the entirety is work by myself. The updates come from what I described in the first portion of the proposal, as it may sound off, but we aren't given updates here in that regard, and people have asked for some other information. This includes a larger overview of the dev work for the entire group. My specific tasks will be BTC Pay Server, BIP 174, web payment processors, continuing tour availability, governance evaluation, because after we discussed you seemed iffy, so I want to take that up. Masternode UI UX changes for determinant Masternode. Okay, now the issue is, well, no, they are here. So the BTC Pay server's here. The things that he's saying he's going to be doing. Okay, so yeah. And we did have this discussion before where we did want developers to put in individual proposals. And this is the downside of it, really, is that we can't manage the individuals. We don't know what they need to do or not be doing. Alexandra Resi said thanks for the qualifications. Captain Redbeard is upset that despite what he said, people are still saying yes. Dodino, who's another core, well, not core, another developer, has voiced his voiced his concerns, and it goes on. I've jumped in, and you see, so basically this now gets to a point whereby the developers are having an argument, and they might as well be arguing in Spanish, because like they now get into the realms of things that we can't understand. And I can try to break it down that let's say cryptography, for example, it's a discipline of itself. In of itself, it's something that you can do for a job. Now, you need it within crypto. You need it, well, obviously, you need it within Pivx for some of these things like shielding, especially for privacy. They have often quite unique cryptographic requirements. Now, should our developers be funded to go and learn that cryptography? Certainly, I would say certainly, because otherwise you're only going to have to go and pay someone who's learned it before, and then they're going to have the problem of being able to implement the actual currency side to the crypto, actually to code it away from just being crazy mathematics. So there is so much to unpack here that my initial idea to solve this would have been just to have a person, and I may suggest this to Captain Redbeard if I can message him privately, is to just have a person who looks over the proposals that are given a technical, that are highly technical. Like, for example, here we have something that says, let's find one, chain locks, adding chain locks to Pivx. Now, I haven't got a clue how long that will take. I haven't got a clue what issues it will potentially give on the chain. I've got no clue at all, and I dare say most of the people who are here voting have also got no clue. They may have at best a rough idea. Now, what we really need is a developer who is not a core developer, maybe from the outside or from another project, to just look over these and say, yes, you're getting value for money. No, you're not getting value for money. Yes, this is viable. No, this is not viable. Yes, this makes sense. No, this doesn't make sense. Yes, this is legitimate. No, this is not legitimate. Now, one person could do this for quite a few chains, because as well as Pivx having this now incident, Dash have had this ongoing for years, where they've got, let's look at their core team, who always get funded. Well, I can't see their proposal. It's not in there this month. It's not in there yet. Who always get funded and have been serial non-achievers. So that's what I would like to see in conclusion. As for this liquid proposal, honestly, it's going to take me so long to get my head around it that for now I'm simply going to have to abstain, because it's going to take a long time for me to get my head around what the issues actually are, what he is doing, what he's not doing, and how legitimate these things actually are. Count of PRs, right? So Eric said, I think everyone can agree that measuring effort based on the count of PRs is not fair at all. Yep, one PR may take 20 minutes, another may take 20 days. Now, this, we all understand this, right?
Knowing this, it's quite disingenuous to imply 23 PRs for Doge Cash is a huge amount of work. That's true. I dug into them and found they are almost, if not all, related to a graphics rebrand. That means they were likely trivial and done very quickly with little effort. What bothers me most is that is a symptom of poor communication among the team. It reminds me of when Thursday and Ozzy have used to keep Fuzz in the loop. That didn't work out well and hurt everyone. I would much rather see a large team of developers with greatly different skills helping each other to grow to become the best they can be than to see public jabs like this. Pivx has been there, done that before. Let's not go that route again. I was with you until the end. This last line is rubbish. Yeah, that's rubbish there. Eric's got a history of picking sides. There's nothing wrong with public jabs. And Eric, funnily enough, he's one of the people who really wanted people. No, he wasn't. He didn't actually. I think it was Spock. I think Eric didn't want. We had this argument before whereby people said, should all of the developers come together under one banner or should they go individually? And Spock was the one that said he wanted everyone to go individually because Spock didn't really get along with the people under the banner. I am with Spock, and I'm with Eric on these first three because this is clearly true, right? So yeah, well done, Eric. This is clearly true. So 75% of the time I'm with him as usual, but 25% here, this line here, no, I'm not with him. I would rather that they did have individual proposals and that they held each other accountable. And the only way they can do that is transparency. So it's not a public jab, it's transparency. I think I'm going to reply. Let me reply. I'll put these are not public jabs. Yeah, I want to put them both in capital. This is transparency in action. But I agree. I agree with your observations. PR count isn't fair, but I'm very happy that the developers are holding each other accountable. This is excellent. Thanks, guys. And I'll post that. And with that, let's move on because honestly, that took up way too long. I wanted that to be 10 minutes and it was 20. So let's move on. Now, I'm going to show you something now because I usually do, at this point, we usually do Evmos. However, when I went to go and do my research, I bet it's not the case now, when I went to go and do my research, there hadn't been any new Evmos proposals, which is still the case. So there's been zero proposals on Evmos. I put a comment in their thing saying that, you know, and I've been saying this for a long time, that the governance on Evmos, unfortunately, it is dying a slow death. There are very few proposals coming through. Well, since the last episode, there's been none, and this episode's a week late, by the way. There's been none. When we started doing this show, there was usually 2 or 3 for me to pick from. Now there's none. For the last few weeks, I didn't have a choice in which ones I could pick from. It was only ever the one. And they all revolved around Forge decks, and it's been that way for months. So there is nothing I can do about this. Unfortunately, I can't do Evmos because there is nothing on Evmos to do. And I think it's a symptom of having a core DAO team, and everybody now sitting back and waiting for the core DAO team to bring something to the table. as opposed to bringing something to the table themselves. Also, the way that the other two, I forget their name, Lord Dana and I forget the other guy's name, but the way they were treated, I guess that's really a warning shot, I guess, to new people. And since then, you know, there hasn't been, even the Forge Decks guys, they are Orbital Apes guys, so they've been in the ecosystem for a long time. They are doing great. Like, don't get me wrong, people that are working and building like that definitely need to be supported and pushed. And obviously we have Dora hacks, which will create new projects. But what's happening with the DAO on Evmos is, it's worrying. And, you know, I know it may annoy people within the thing, and it may seem like FUD. I don't know, you know, I might get the old Don Kryptonian treatment. But for me, I think that a healthy DAO, especially for a project like Evmos, will have more proposals coming in, not less, or at least maintain the number of proposals. And this one it's just going down and down and down and down and down. So we'll do Juno instead. Now, this proposal has passed, but when I was researching it, it was in the throes of being voted through, but it was passing anyway. Now, this is a proposal to deploy 1 million Juno to the staked Juno and Juno pool on Osmosis. It may seem like that's all they're doing. It's just more liquidity. We covered liquidity in the last one. We've been covering liquidity, it feels like, on the Cosmos ecosystem forever, because all of the last proposals had something to do with liquidity of some kind, or DeFi of some kind. And I'm not really the biggest DeFi degenerate. I have my days, but this one is still DeFi, but it's a little bit more than just liquidity. So the plan is to provide this liquidity to Osmosis, but the reason why they want to provide this massive amount of liquidity to Osmosis, massive meaning, if I go to CoinGecko, we'll see 1 million Juno is worth, let's see what 1 million Juno is worth. Come on, Juno. Oh, Juno's holding. So 1 million Juno is worth around $390,000. So around $400,000, let's say. Just to show you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. $394,000. So all of that Juno. Now, the reason why they want to put all of that Juno on there is because it means that the ultimate objective of this initiative is to create the conditions for Stride's staked Juno, or ST Juno, to be approved as collateral on the UMI money market. This is a big deal. So what this means is that you can stake your Juno with Stride. You'd get your staked Juno. You can then take your staked Juno and put your staked Juno on the UMI money market and borrow against it. You can use it as collateral on the UMI money market. UMI contributors have determined that 1 million Juno in the staked Juno Osmosis stable swap pool is the minimum trading liquidity needed to safely enable staked Juno collateralization on UMI. The reason why they need this much liquidity is because it makes the price be a little bit more stable, which is what you need for lending. You don't want it to be, like, obviously pegged, or like, you don't want it to be utterly stable, but you do want more stability than you would get if you had less than 1 million Juno. So 1 million Juno is the bare minimum. Therefore, this proposal asks the Juno community to deploy 1 million Juno of protocol-owned liquidity to the staked Juno pool on Osmosis. 1 million Juno would not be spent in any way and would always remain under the control of the Juno community. This is brilliant, right? Because what they're saying is these funds would be sitting in the community pool, or you can put it on Osmosis and provide liquidity. The terms of this liquidity position would be 1 year. If Juno governance does not authorize an extension, then the Juno will be withdrawn and returned to the community pool on May the 1st next year. Justification. Recently, Juno was approved as collateral on UMI. Hugely significant for Juno. I hugely might be pushing it, but it is significant, definitely. For the first time, it gave Juno holders an alternative to selling. So now you don't have to sell. Now you can borrow against your Juno. That's actually, yes, that is quite big. Now Juno holders can access the equity of their Juno without selling, simply by using UMI to borrow USDC against Juno. The solution to the problem is liquid staking, and there we go. Right. Anyway, stride and osmosis, blah blah blah. So for this proposal, let's do the pros and cons, because we've been lacking in our parliamentary procedure this episode so far. So the pros are, it adds another use case for Juno. Well. Yeah, sorry. Okay, yeah. So the pros are it's another use case for Juno. I like that this proposal is well written. It's still DeFi. It is still DeFi, but this is a massive deal, and I think that if you've got a token and it does become a currency, I think having accessible DeFi is probably the most important factor. The negative points are perhaps maybe a bit of a stretch, but it's using one of the sub DAOs within DAODAO. Maybe they could have had a few more names on here. Maybe that's small though. Really pushing, really clutching at straws, as I like to do often. But yeah, I think overall this is a brilliant proposal. It's under 10% of what's in the pool, and to enable lending on UMI, which is, I'd say, the premier lending protocol or chain within the Cosmos ecosystem. I think it's a very good deal. It's not being spent either. It's just being borrowed. I don't know if there are anything for the trading rewards, the rewards that would be earned on that staked Juno, on that liquidity. We can't. I don't know if it's been answered. But for me, it's a yes. It's a definite yes. It's an easy yes, and yeah, I like this. I'm liking Juno more and more each time I look into it. Mostly because I haven't been a party to the real ride downhill. I see the embers of the negativity that was probably raging whilst it's been going downhill. But I think a lot of those people who are really upset about the 95% loss in value of Juno have left. So I'm getting there where there's just the diehards, and everybody seems pretty happy. Maybe happy might be pushing it, but it's refreshing to see a project where people are actually building stuff and not so much moon boying going on. So, enjoying hanging around in the Juno community, I must say. But yeah, that one's a yes from me. Nice proposal, well put together. We'll have to see how many. Oh, one other thing that I did actually notice, which I didn't really like, was it was. I think this is the person who has put in the proposal. I think this is the account that's put in the proposal. Oh, let me get this right. Okay, so this is the proposer. Yes, right. So this is the person who's put in the proposal. Now, what I didn't like is that this person. I don't know if I should say I didn't like it, because maybe he doesn't because he's a part of the team, so he feels it would be bad for him or or he would have conflicting interests if he votes on proposals. But this guy hasn't voted on anything. He hasn't voted on anything. Did not vote, did not vote, did not vote, did not vote, did not vote. He hasn't voted on anything. Did not vote, did not vote, did not vote, did not vote, did not vote. He just never votes. He voted on this about sending liquidity to Windex. But other than that, he's never there. He voted on in liquidity incentives for Juno swap. But yeah, other than that, he never votes. I don't really know why. I don't really understand. I don't really understand fully the mechanic. I don't understand it, but I'm hoping that there's something that I've missed. Right? So if you know what it is that I've missed, and the reason why this person who's clearly a whale, like almost $400,000 worth of Juno, if they had that at its original price, it would have probably been closer to 40 million. Wow. Yeah, and why does this person not vote? I'd like to know. Or are they voting via their? Are they voting via their validator? Who knows? Who actually knows? But there we go. That was just something that I found out. But let's move on, because time is raging and this is becoming a really long episode. And I didn't want that, but Pivx have really mucked me about. MakerDAO. Let's do MakerDAO. And this one's not going to be quick either. MakerDAO. MakerDAO is possibly the most complicated and complex DAO in the world. Not because it's the oldest DAO, because it's not. They say that. The woman has said that they are the oldest DAO, and she's wrong. Categorically wrong. It's definitely not the oldest DAO. MakerDAO. Let's see. In case you don't know, they are the group behind the DAI stablecoin. So I don't know if you would say that that's their reason for being. I would say it is. They might say they're doing other this, that, and the other, blah, blah, blah. But I would say the reason for being for the MakerDAO is to regulate this decentralized stablecoin, which stays pegged as long as USDC stays pegged 1-to-1 with the US dollar. The fact that they have so much USDC in their collateral, can we call it, is just annoying, because it just means that it doesn't matter what they say or do. If USDC decide to unpeg, then that's the end of DAI. So they need to sort that out. I think they're working on that. I think they're definitely considering it. Anyway, let's not get too complicated and let's not lose people and have eyes roll. You can get that out. You can get that out of the way. Maker improvement proposal, amendments, sub proposals. So this is, I've got my notes here. I'm going to have to refer back to them because MakerDAO is too complex. This is amendment of previous MIPs in preparation for sub DAOs. Oh yes. Right, it's all come back to me now. There's also, I've put a video in the description, which is this one. I think it's this one.
For my wallet, I just wanted 3 things.
All right, well, you can shut up for a start. But it's this video, this talk given by this lady, Jocelyn Chang. It's only had 63 views. Now, this woman came and kicked a lot of knowledge. So you definitely want to go and watch this video if you're interested in DAOs. She's brought you up to speed if you had zero knowledge, and right up to speed. And I think it's a very, very, very good video. Great talk. And she answers some questions at the end. It's just great, right? So well done to her. I'm going to actually share this on Twitter once I finish recording. But So anyway, they want to have sub DAOs, and if we look at it here, maybe she shows reasons why you would want sub DAOs. She starts to show the reasons why you would want sub DAOs, and it's very interesting and very good. And sometimes the sub DAOs can be, I think she quoted it somewhere, or she suggested it somewhere, that they can act as kind of like political parties, whereby they will act in a way that you would want them to act. So instead of you having to do it yourself, you can delegate your votes to sub DAOs. So what they need to do really is just do a lot of cleaning up of these proposals, so that they can get ready for when they have sub DAOs come in. And these are the proposals. Now, I don't know who knows what any of these are. Literally, you'd have to go in and look at them, and you have to really, and this is the problem with MakerDAO, is that you really have to be on top of it, and that is almost a full-time job. Now, what they have decided to do, which was kind of the reason why I wanted to cover them this time round, is what they've decided to do to eliminate this, or to attack this, which is what we know as voter fatigue. This is going to tire you out. You may not have the time, the will, or the brain capacity to go and learn all of this stuff and understand where things are, and when they're moving, to keep up with it. So what they've done is they've decided they want to start having a sub DAO. Oh, right, here we go. Aligned voter committees, whereby people can go and delegate their votes to these particular AVCs, and they will go and vote on your behalf. And I think this is a very, very, very inspired move. I think it's definitely super necessary. I heard another woman from GitHub DAO gave a talk at an Ethereum hackathon, and she just left, and she was saying about voter fatigue and how they can address it, and how difficult it is for people to stay up to speed. Sometimes they want too many people to be voters. So this is very good. You want at least, I don't know, 40% of your token holders to vote one way or another. Now, if they can give their votes to someone else using this type of system, something that I'll be using in my upcoming DAO, we will be using in our upcoming DAO, because you can be involved too, is something like this, where you've got aligned voter committees, where everybody who's aligned will come and they'll vote with you. Bosh. So for the proposal, quite simple. They're not asking for any money. They're just saying, we need to sort this out. This needs to be changed. That needs to be changed. The other needs to be changed. I feel like also, perhaps this is not something that even needs to be voted on. If you had somebody who was in charge of, no, it needs to be voted on. It does need to be voted on. Okay. And for me, this is, look at this. Yeah. 100 plus pages of governance. Woohoo. Woohoo. And here it goes. Look at all of that. No one's going to read that. No one's reading all of that. No one's checking what these amendments are. No, it's not happening. No one's got time for that. So that's why you need people who are incentivized to keep up to date and up to speed on all this stuff and vote on your behalf as you would vote. And they will do that for you. Delegation, it makes perfect sense. For me, I have to say yes, because I think sub DAOs are huge. And sub DAOs are massive. They're such an obvious next step for DAOs. Such an obvious next step for DAOs. It's like when the AI creates new AI. You know, like when the DAO controls another DAO. That just makes so much sense. I'm gonna say it's the cons are, it's another hyper complex proposal that you're gonna need a doctorate to fully understand. But I'll vote yes. My vote was yes, and I would do it via delegate. Sorry, if I could. I can't even scroll up. It's that much. I have to grab the thing and zoom it up. So, yeah, MakerDAO. Well worth checking out if you've got a lifetime or two to spare and you really feel like doing a lot of heavy reading. The thing is that what the stable coin that they are securing with this DAO is possibly the most important token within crypto. Yeah, possibly the most important token within crypto. So you need to have the strongest DAO behind it. And I think they almost have that. The problem, obviously, with these things is it always remains that it's a plutocracy, and the rich just make the decisions. That's always going to be the problem until there's some sort of. It's always going to be the problem. And on that note, with time clearly having gotten away from me, another 1 hour episode, and I really wanted to cut them down to 30 minutes, but we just had so much to get over. Let's recap quickly before we leave. Well, first of all, congratulations for reaching this far. Make sure you give it a like. You've gotten so far, you have to give it a like now. Make sure you send a share and share it with somebody else who's into crypto, hasn't quite seen my content yet, or maybe they want to make content like this for their own chain. I really would like to start doing this chain specific, and I might start by creating my own AVC and following MakerDAO week in, week out, or month in, month out, because I can't do week in, week out because I've got a life of my own that is massively overrated, but I'm still trying to live it. Pivx. No, we'll start with Dash. Dash was quite a simple one this week. This episode. Nice and simple. We voted yes on that one. Community built public goods they're the creme de la creme of DAO behavior. And then we went on to Pivx, and we had the drama. We'll call it drama. I don't know if I'll call it drama. No, I won't call it drama. We had the developers holding each other accountable publicly, which I really appreciate. I don't think it's a public jab at all. I think it's great. I think if you don't have that scenario, what you would have is what you have in Dash, whereby the developers are not being held accountable. They're collecting money and not producing the things that they're supposed to be producing. And when they do produce them, they break. So it's good that you've got that accountability within Pivx. Dash guys won't like that. I just said, I don't care. It's a fact. You have to have that accountability. Pivx it's not perfect. No project's perfect. But I think that accountability is good. We then went on to Evmos. Evmos didn't have any proposals. The amount of new proposals on that network has been dwindling, and it's now stopped. There's not been a new proposal on that network in almost a month. That is because they have got a now centralized DAO team, and the fact that there is a team, there's no slight on the team, but the fact that there is a team means that everybody else is kind of sitting back and saying, okay, well, what do the team think? Let the team do it. Anybody who does want to put a proposal forward, I guess, has to go through the team, and the team are just vetting them, and maybe nobody with any sensible proposals is coming forward. I would check on the forums, but the forums are really slow and rubbish, and they need to move the forums to somewhere else, and I think they're in the process of doing that. So we skipped Evmos and we went to Juno. Juno have got some sort of a DeFi move in the works, where they are moving Juno to make liquidity so that they can start lending on Umi. That one was a yes from us. I liked that use case. I like the fact that it's technically costing them nothing. In fact, they might even make the money depending on what they do with the rewards for providing that liquidity. I didn't immediately see an answer to that question, so that'll be interesting to find out in the future. And finally, we went to MakerDAO, which is the most complicated DAO in the world, which upholds the most important token in the world. I think I can say that because the United States dollar is the global currency. DAI is its decentralized alternative, the most decentralized of stablecoins. Unfortunately, underwritten by USDC, which means that it's flimsy as anything because it's being held in some 2-bit American banks, which are likely to fail. It's just a fact. And that was our episode. I've really enjoyed it. I've been Cryptosi. Congratulations on making it to the 1 hour mark. Please smash that like button and make sure you subscribe. I'm collecting subscribers now, so make sure you subscribe. Check out my website, DAOWatch.blog. There's some interesting stuff on there. Going to be putting some tutorials or things on there to help you to navigate DAOs for the first time, help you to vote. I might start doing like my top 5 DAOs, maybe like best performing DAOs of the month and stuff like that. I don't know. But there's lots of stuff over there. I'm going to be doing more resources. Going to make the partnership, which was Pivx alliances. I'm going to do it. I want to possibly do it for Dash. I'm just going to do alliances so that DAOs know how to make partnerships with other projects, other DAOs, without having to have a centralized team or like a DAO team. Because I think it emancipates, is that the right word? Emasculates? Not emasculates. Just takes the emphasis from third parties to do that work, and third parties should be doing that work. But I've been Cryptosi. You have been a wonderful audience. Thank you for watching. Peace and love to all the projects. Peace and love to all the developers. Peace and love to all the contributors. Peace and love to all the voters. And peace and love to you.